Hello, my lovely chaos creators. Wishing you all a fantastic new year. I hope your holidays were filled with joy and celebration. I'm back with a fresh batch of videos for you. Apologies for my absence. I've missed you all. New year means new beginnings, so expect more content here and on my gaming channel at BDisaster91. I also stream on that channel and on Twitch. You can find all the links in the description box below. Before we dive into today's video, please show your support by subscribing and turning on notifications so you'll be the first to know when I upload new content here and on my gaming channel. Now, let's jump into today's story, the life and death of Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur was no stranger to violence. His upbringing in the tough neighborhoods of New York City, Baltimore, and Oakland shaped him into the man he became. As an adult, he embodied the tough persona his music portrayed, with a clean-shaven head and a muscular physique adorned with tattoos. Despite having survived a previous shooting, with boyish charm and an inviting smile, Tupac had a unique presence. His confident stride and intense gaze were complemented by soft eyes and long lashes, setting him apart from his peers in the rap scene. Over time, he amassed a collection of tattoos, some reportedly temporary. Notable ink included "Outlaw" on his left forearm and a striking image of Jesus on a burning cross with the phrase, "Only God can judge me" on his left upper arm. He also bore the words "Trust Nobody" and "Heartless" of a bloody skull and crossbones with a haunting message below. "My only fear of death is coming back reincarnated." Tupac often quoted his favorite lines from literature, and one of his cherished passages was Robert Frost's poem, "Nothing Gold Can Stay," which he recited to his director during the filming of his first movie, Juice. The poem reflects the fleeting nature of beauty in life, a sentiment Tupac resonated with deeply. In the months leading up to his death, he had formed a new group of young artists called Nothing Gold, with plans to produce their music, aiming to inspire a positive message for teenagers. Tupac was not just a gifted rapper, he was a passionate advocate for change. Early years childhood, Tupac's mother, Alice Faye Crooks, known later as Afeni Shakur, and his father, Billy Garland, were key figures in the founding of the Black Panther Party in New York during the late 1960s. At that time, Alice was out on bail for felony charges related to a conspiracy to bomb department stores and police stations, and she was in a relationship with Garland. Previously, she had been married to Lumumba Abdul Shakur, but after becoming pregnant with Garland's child, Lumumba, also a Panther, divorced her. In April 1969, Alice and 20 other members of the Panthers were arrested, earning the group the infamous title of the Panther 21. Among those arrested was Tupac's future aunt, Assata Shakur, who would later seek asylum in Cuba in 1984. While incarcerated at the Women's House of Detention in Greenwich Village, Alice discovered she was pregnant. Representing herself in court, she conducted a fierce cross-examination of a key witness who was revealed to be an undercover government agent, as noted by Connie Bruck in a July 1997 New Yorker article. By May 1971, 14 of the original defendants, including Alice, were acquitted just a month before she was due to give birth. On June 16, 1971, Alice welcomed her son, whom she named Lassane. Shortly after his birth, she and Garland separated. Garland, who had two other children from previous relationships, was involved in Tupac's life sporadically until he was 5, after which they lost touch. It wasn't until 1992, when Garland saw Tupac's image on a poster for the film Juice, that he reconnected with his son. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's Homicide Unit records Tupac's birth name as Lassane Crooks, a name provided by the family. The Clark County coroner lists him as Tupac A. Shakur, with the alias Lassane Parish Crooks, suggesting that his legal surname, Crooks, was derived from his mother's maiden name. Alice Faye married Jarrell Wayne Williams, her second husband, when Tupac was just a young child. Eventually, Williams adopted the name Mutulu Shakur, leading Alice to become Afeni Shakur. She named her son Tupac Amaru, inspired by a warrior and the last Inca chief who faced torture and execution at the hands of Spanish conquerors. The name Tupac translates to shining serpent, a symbol of wisdom and bravery in Incan culture. The surname Shakur, which he would carry for life, means thankful to God in Arabic, and is often adopted by those who join the Nation of Islam. Although Afeni never officially changed her son's name to Tupac Shakur, it became his identity. Tupac was born with a fighting spirit. It's amusing because I never thought he would survive, Afeni shared with writer Veronica Chambers in an Esquire interview. Every 5 years, I was astonished he made it to 5, then 10, then 15. I experienced countless miscarriages. This child endured the harshest conditions while in my womb. I had to obtain a court order just to get an egg to eat daily. I needed another court order for a glass of milk every day, you understand? I lost weight, but he thrived. He was born just a month and 3 days after we, Panther 21 members, were acquitted. I had struggled to carry a child, and then this one comes along and truly fights for his life. Care denied him. After her acquittal, Afeni took to the speaking circuit to share her story. However, her moment in the spotlight was fleeting, and she soon found herself back on welfare, living in a challenging neighborhood. She made her home in the Bronx with her baby boy. 2 years later, she welcomed Tupac's half-sister, Sekikiwa Shakur, into the world. Sekikiwa's father, Mutulu, was a Black Panther and a nationalist affiliated with the Nation of Islam. He referred to himself as a doctor, claiming to have earned an acupuncture degree in Canada. In 1986, Mutulu was apprehended and charged with orchestrating a 1981 Brinks robbery that resulted in the deaths of 2 police officers from Nyack, New York, and a Brinks security guard. Despite his denial of involvement in the crime, he was convicted and is currently serving a 60-year sentence in a federal maximum security prison in Florence, Colorado. Additionally, he was found guilty of conspiracy for aiding in the escape of Assata Shakur, a family friend whom Tupac affectionately called Aunt. Assata, a former Black Panther and later a leader in the Black Liberation Army, was convicted in 1977 for the murder of a New Jersey state trooper and sentenced to life imprisonment. She managed to escape a few years later and has been living in Cuba since 1986, remaining elusive. Following the Brinks robbery in 1981, Mutulu went to hiding and evaded capture until 1986, making the FBI's 10 most wanted list during that time. Tupac learned early on from Mutulu to be wary of law enforcement. FBI agents would occasionally visit Tupac's school, inquiring if he had seen his stepfather. Despite being on the run, Mutulu maintained a close relationship with Tupac. Elmo Geronimo Pratt, Tupac's godfather and a deputy minister in the Black Panther Party, was absent during Tupac's childhood. Pratt received a life sentence in a California prison after being convicted of murdering a white grammar school teacher in Los Angeles when Tupac was just a baby. His defense attorney at the time was a young Johnny Cochran Jr., who later gained fame for defending O.J. Simpson in the high-profile murder trial of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. Pratt's case became a significant civil rights issue for the African American community in Los Angeles, as Cochran argued that racism played a role in the prosecution. Throughout his imprisonment, Pratt maintained his innocence, claiming he was framed by law enforcement. He was denied parole 16 times because he refused to abandon his political beliefs or admit to a crime he insisted he did not commit. In June 1997, Pratt was released from prison after an Orange County Superior Court judge overturned his conviction, deeming the prosecution by the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office to be unlawful and corrupt. The judge's ruling was based on the revelation that crucial evidence favorable to Pratt had been withheld during his trial, particularly that the main witness against him was a paid informant for the police. This decision came midway through Pratt's 26-year incarceration. Tupac later expressed that he was continuing the legacy of Geronimo Pratt, Afeni, the Black Panthers, Mutulu Shakur, and Lumumba Shakur. In his music, he referred to them as political prisoners. Afeni and her 2 children eventually relocated to Harlem to live with her new partner, Legs, and spent time in homeless shelters and with friends and family. Legs, who had connections to notorious New York drug lord Nicky Barnes, was imprisoned for credit card fraud and tragically passed away in prison at the age of 41 due to a heart attack induced by crack cocaine. Legs was a significant figure in Tupac's life, teaching him the ways of the streets, a trait Tupac deeply respected. To him, Legs was the closest thing to a father he ever had, and with his passing, Tupac felt a profound loss. "I couldn't even cry, man," he confided to writer Kevin Powell. "I felt like I needed a father to guide me, but he was gone." When he turned 12, a pivotal moment arrived. Afeni enrolled him in a theater group in Harlem where he discovered his natural talent for performance. By 13, he took on the role of Travis in A Raisin in the Sun at the renowned Apollo Theater during a Jesse Jackson fundraiser. The stage captivated him, and through acting, he felt he could earn the respect he craved. This experience altered the course of his life and provided him escape from the ghetto. In 1986, when Tupac was 15, Afeni relocated the family to Baltimore, Maryland. With her determination, she secured his admission to the esteemed Baltimore High School for the Arts, marking another significant shift in his life, as it took him away from his previous surroundings. At this new school, Tupac flourished, participating in numerous productions while also exploring rap music. In addition to music, Tupac immersed himself in ballet, poetry, and acting. It was during his time at the Baltimore school that he began to identify as an artist, earning recognition from both peers and teachers for his talent. At this point, the more rebellious aspects of his personality had yet to surface. Despite his artistic successes, life at home remained a struggle. Afeni often faced financial difficulties, leaving them unable to pay utility bills, resulting in frequent power outages. During these times, Tupac, an enthusiastic reader, would study under the glow of streetlights, determined to continue his education at Baltimore High School. In 1988, during Tupac's junior year, tragedy struck when a neighborhood boy was killed in a gang shooting. In response, Afeni decided to send her children on a Greyhound bus to spend the summer with a family friend in Marin City, California. Unbeknownst to her, this area, referred to by the police as the Jungle, was a small ghetto nestled beneath the expensive hillside homes across the bay from San Francisco in the affluent Marin County. In the Excel Bush Road, number 9, my younger brother, who in summertime lives in a bunk house and is scheduled to kill people that summer on a ranch to get away from the whole city, Finney had no idea that she was placing her kids in a neighborhood plagued by gangs, similar to or even worse than the one they had just left. A few months later, after receiving a call from her friend about entering an alcohol rehabilitation program, Afeni moved to California to join her children, settling into a low-income federal housing project known as the worst in the area. They found themselves in the heart of the jungle, specifically in Building 89, Unit 1, surrounded by local drug dealers. It wasn't long before Afeni fell into a cocaine addiction. As a lanky teenager, Tupac faced ridicule from the street dealers from whom his mother purchased crack cocaine to support her escalating habit. It'd be the shitty dumb niggas who had women, rides, houses, Tupac recounted to Powell, and I didn't have shit. They used to diss me. He also shared with writer Veronica Chambers, everybody else's mother was just a regular mother, but my mother was a feigned reputation, you know what I'm saying? My mother had a strong reputation. It was just like having a daddy because she had a rep. Motherfuckers get roasted if you fuck with a Fane or her children, couldn't nobody touch us. Despite this fierce protection, Tupac reached a breaking point with his mother's crack addiction and chose to leave her apartment, moving into an abandoned housing unit with a group of boys. They eventually established the musical group One Nation MCs. Despite being a diligent student with an impressive GPA, Tupac made the decision to leave high school at 17. To make ends meet, he took on various odd jobs, including one at a pizza shop, and resorted to selling crack on the streets to survive. Tupac often recalled his childhood filled with tears. His family's frequent relocations, often to homeless shelters, left him feeling like an outsider. He experienced profound loneliness, lacking long-lasting friendships and feeling the need to reinvent himself with each new neighborhood. Living in the ghetto made him feel exposed and vulnerable. He faced ridicule from peers, who taunted him with names like tuberculosis and tube sock due to his name, while also calling him pretty for his looks. He confided to writer William Shaw about his struggles with clothing, attending school in the same worn-out outfits daily, with holes in his jeans and battered sneakers. He expressed a desire to be anyone but himself, wishing to be Jack instead of Tupac. It was in the Bay Area that Tupac discovered his passion for hip-hop. He began crafting poetry, which he later transformed into songs, adopting the name MC New York. When he wasn't busy writing, he immersed himself in reading, devouring books, films, and music, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge. In that environment, he honed his rap style, delivering straightforward and impactful rhymes. His lyrics became candid, reflecting his true self without pretense. Despite his family's ongoing struggles in the ghetto, he embraced their reality without shame, often emphasizing the importance of authenticity with the phrase, "keeping it real." In 1986, Tupac and his friends from the jungle came together to form a rap group called Two from the Crew. They crafted several songs including Lifestyles of the Poor and Homeless, Let's Get It On, and Get Ourselves the Girls. Their signature track, which would later evolve into Tupac's defining anthem, was Thug Life. This title was inspired by how the local community referred to the youth as young thugs. Tupac expressed that his music reflected the realities of his life and those around him. The lyrics, particularly those addressing violence with law enforcement, were rooted in the genuine experiences of young black men living in the ghetto. This tough persona, which would later become synonymous with his legacy, was born from these experiences. "You were just giving truth to the music," Tupac shared with Sway. a DJ from San Francisco's KMEL. Living in Marin City felt like being in a small town, which taught me to be more direct in my approach. Instead of using complex metaphors, I learned to tackle issues head-on without wasting time. In Marin City, everything was clear-cut. Poverty was clear-cut. There was no other way to express "I'm poor" than to simply say, "I'm poor." However, it wouldn't be long before he would rise above that poverty. About the music. In 1988, Shakur started his music career under the alias MC New York. That same year, he enrolled in poetry classes taught by Layla Steinberg, who quickly took on the role of his manager. Steinberg arranged a concert for Shakur in his rap group Strictly Dope and successfully secured a deal for him with Atron Gregory, the manager of Digital Underground. By 1990, Gregory brought Shakur on board as a roadie and backup dancer for the group. Shakur made his debut as Tupac with Digital Underground on their January 1991 single, Same Song, released under the new label Interscope Records. This track was also part of the soundtrack for the 1991 film Nothing But Trouble, featuring stars like Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Chevy Chase, and Demi Moore. The song kicked off the group's January 1991 EP, This Is an EP release, and Shakur appeared in the accompanying music video. At Steinberg's suggestion, Jimmy Chopmaster Jay Drite, a co-founder of Digital Underground, collaborated with Shakur, Ray Love, and DJ Dze on their initial studio projects. Drite noted that Shakur struggled to fit into a group dynamic, stating, "This guy was on a mission from day one. Maybe he knew he wasn't going to be around 7 years later." Between 1988 and 1991, Drite and Digital Underground helped produce Shakur's early work with his crew, Strictly Dope. These recordings were rediscovered in 2000 and released as The Lost Tapes, circa 1989. Afeni Shakur attempted to halt the sale of these recordings, but the lawsuit was resolved in June 2001, leading to their re-release as Beginnings, The Lost Tapes, 1988 to 1991. During his time with Digital Underground, Shakur formed a friendship with Randy Stretch Walker, who, along with his brother Majesty and a friend, launched a rap group and production team called Live Squad in Queens, New York. Stretch appeared on a track from Digital Underground's 1991 album Sons of the P, and he and Shakur frequently collaborated in both recording and performances. Digital Underground's leader, Shock G, reflects on Tupac's journey, stating, "He spent 4 years with us at TNT Records and only 9 months at Death Row. So if you do the math, he toured with us 5 times, including a trip to Japan. During those 3 or 4 years, we shared countless experiences on the tour bus, which is how we truly got to know him." Long before he became a legendary figure and film star, Tupac was grooving to the Humpty Dance alongside Oakland's eclectic music scene. He took on roadie duties as a temporary gig while Shock G and manager Atron Gregory promoted a demo featuring the future hit Trapped. Throughout his time with Digital Underground, Tupac enjoyed his first tour alongside Big Daddy Kane, his debut verse on Same Song, and his initial film appearance in 1991's Nothing But Trouble. They also collaborated on his first top 10 hit, I Get Around. Yet, as Shock G emphasizes, it's a fortunate twist of fate. Pac found us, we didn't find him. Not at all. He soon amassed enough tracks for a solo album, yet securing a record label to release it proved elusive. One of the companies that turned him down was Tommy Boy Records. He was charming, funny, and quite the flirt, recalled Monica Lynch, president of Tommy Boy Records, in an interview with William Shaw for Vanity Fair. But as an artist, he just wasn't there yet. By 1990, gangsta rap was all the rage, particularly in Los Angeles, where icons like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eazy, Ice-T, and Ice Cube were making waves. The genre had captivated young audiences across racial lines, making LA the epicenter of this cultural phenomenon. Tupac would eventually make his way there, but in the meantime, new opportunities began to surface. While he awaited a record deal, Tupac accompanied his friend Money B to audition for a film titled Juice, a coming-of-age story. Money B was auditioning for the role of a punk named Bishop but didn't impress. Tupac seized the moment and asked to audition as well. Producer Neil Moritz was quick to agree, later describing Tupac as dynamic, bold, powerful, magnetic, any word you want to use. He was cast on the spot. The filming took place in Harlem, directed by Ernest Dickerson, who worked with Spike Lee. After Tupac's performance, Moritz congratulated him and predicted, 10 years from now, you're going to be a big star. 10 years from now, Tupac replied, I'm not going to be alive. Juice became a pivotal moment in Tupac's journey. Not only was he emerging as a rap sensation, but he was also stepping into the world of film. In interviews for the video biography, Thug Immortal, friends noted that before his acting debut, Tupac had a gentler side. However, once he took on the role of Bishop, a hardened street thug, it seemed he fully embraced the character, adopting a tough demeanor both on and off the set. Around this time, Tupac got the words "Thug Life" tattooed on his abdomen. He later expressed that Bishop represented just one aspect of young black males during that era, emphasizing that not all were violent. He contrasted this with his role as Lucky in Poetic Justice, portraying a young black man who was a responsible parent and striving for success. Despite this, Tupac seemed to resonate more with the character of Bishop. Meanwhile, Atron Gregory was working to secure a deal with Interscope Records, an independent label founded by Ted Field, heir to the Marshall Field fortune, and Jimmy Iovine, a former producer for John Lennon. At that time, Interscope was partnered with Warner Music Group, a subsidiary of Time Warner. Interscope president Tom Whalley ultimately signed Tupac, leading to a deal for his debut album, Tupacalypse Now. Now, the some issues Tupac played with. Life With, released in 1992, the album achieved remarkable success, selling $90 million worth of records. You could instantly recognize that Tupac was unlike anyone else, Wally shared with Vanity Fair's William Shaw. I couldn't keep up with him. I've never collaborated with someone who could churn out so many incredible songs in such a short time. Tupac brought a refreshing voice and style to the gangster rap scene. Behind his tough exterior lay a gentleness, revealing an emotional complexity in his more reflective lyrics. Yet, beneath that facade was an angry young man, grappling with the shadows of his past, which emerged in his more aggressive tracks. His distinctive talent shone through on the album Tupacalypse Now. The record featured powerful lyrics that addressed the violence between young black men and law enforcement, drawing inspiration from the gang culture of South Central Los Angeles and Compton. The single Brenda's Got a Baby, which touched on themes of police violence, sparked significant controversy. Then, Vice President Dan Quayle condemned the album, claiming it promoted violence, cop killings, and disrespected women. In his campaign against what he viewed as the erosion of traditional values in entertainment, Quayle pointed to Tupac as an example, asserting that his lyrics had no place in our society. This backlash only fueled Tupac's rise, propelling him into the spotlight and earning him a nomination for an American Music Award as the Best New Rap Hip-Hop Artist that year. In the video biography, Thug Immortal, writer Tony Patrick characterized Tupac as magnetic. There was something extraordinary about him, Patrick remarked. You could see it in his music, and I noticed it even more in his films. He had this aura. He possessed a unique charisma. No one else looked like him. Those eyebrows, those cheekbones. He was undeniably handsome. Sometimes, when you saw him lost in thought, you couldn't help but want to approach him and ask, "Pac, what's on your mind? How can I help you?" He had that captivating presence that drew you in immediately. While Tupacalypse Now was still making waves on the charts, Tupac made his film debut in Juice, which premiered in theaters nationwide. Ernest Dickerson, the director of Juice, shared his insights with MTV about working with the rap icon. He characterized Tupac as a deeply reflective individual. In early 1992, after completing Juice, Tupac and his close friend, Charles Man Fuller, relocated from Northern California to South Central LA. There, Tupac began honing his skills at shooting ranges and focused on weight training, further propelling his rising success. His impressive performance in Juice opened the door for his next role, where he starred alongside Janet Jackson in Poetic Justice. Director John Singleton also commended Tupac's talent, stating in an interview with Vibe magazine, "He's what you'd call a natural. He's a genuine actor, equipped with various methods and philosophies on how to approach a role." And I watched Juice. Tupac's performance struck me like a bolt of lightning. Here was an actor capable of portraying the ultimate wild character, a man who could embody the liberation that comes with a "I don't care" attitude. And I thought, this is some serious acting. Perhaps I had underestimated him. While filming Poetic Justice, Tupac both challenged and embraced my perspective as a director and mentor. This dynamic defined our collaboration, characterized by heated debates followed by reconciliations. Tupac's voice came from a depth that can only be fully understood by grasping the struggles of being a black man. A displaced African spirit brimming with strength, sorrow, and fervor, yet lacking a clear path to channel that intensity beyond his artistry. Veronica Chambers, invited by Singleton to document the behind-the-scenes experience, shared her insights in an Esquire article after Tupac's passing. She noted that Tupac often struggled with adhering to the rules. Most of the time, things went smoothly, she recounted, but it wasn't uncommon for Tupac to indulge in substances in his trailer, show up hours late, or become irate seemingly out of nowhere. One day, towards the end of filming, he was granted a day off. However, when the producers decided to shoot promotional photos that morning and called him to the set, he arrived with his friends and erupted. "I can't take this shit. Y'all treat a nigga like a slave." He then stormed off to his trailer and smashed a window in frustration. It certainly wasn't the first instance of a star losing their temper on a film set. However, Tupac stood out as a young black man with significant street credibility. At that moment, no one could predict how far he might push his beliefs about embracing a thug life. While there was outrage on set over being confronted by a brash young artist, there was also an underlying sense of fear. Fear of Tupac and the persona he embodied. This apprehension seemed to linger among those around him right up until his untimely death. In late 1993, Tupac, along with his stepbrother Mo Preem, also known as Maurice Harding, and 3 others, released Thug Life Volume 1. This album showcased hardcore rap and achieved gold status. Tupac managed to break free from the confines of the ghetto, yet the shadows of that life continued to follow him. As he lived out the gritty experiences he rapped about, his own legal troubles began to mount. Starting in 1992, when he faced charges for battery after slapping a woman seeking his autograph, a series of criminal accusations and civil lawsuits began to overshadow his life. At one point, he found himself juggling court appearances in Los Angeles, Atlanta, New York, and Detroit, all within a mere 2 weeks. He was certainly playing into the bad boy persona he had crafted, with all the legal stuff going on. Tupac's friendship with Biggie Smalls also was going down. Tupac and Biggie began their journeys in the music industry as close friends and collaborators. Their paths first intertwined in the early 1990s, united by a shared passion for music and similar backgrounds in the challenging neighborhoods of New York City and Los Angeles. However, as their careers advanced, friction started to develop between them. The origins of the Tupac and Biggie rivalry can be traced back to a notorious event in 1994 when Tupac was robbed and shot multiple times at a recording studio in New York City. He suspected that individuals associated with Biggie's Bad Boy records were involved, which led him to feel betrayed by his once close friend. This incident served as a pivotal moment in their relationship, transforming their underlying tension into a full-blown feud. I will elaborate more on that in another video. Mo Preem noted that when Tupac released his second solo album with Interscope, Strictly for My Niggas in 1994, its striking red cover led many to believe he had joined the Bloods, as red is their signature color. Although he occasionally associated with Bloods, Tupac also spent time with Crips. However, his connection to the Bloods became more pronounced after he signed with Death Row Records, led by Suge Knight, who had deep ties to the game. This affiliation would later complicate matters during the altercation at the MGM Grand with Orlando Anderson, who was identified as a Crip. In 1992, Tupac found himself embroiled in a civil wrongful death lawsuit following the tragic shooting of a 6-year-old boy at a festival in Northern California, celebrating the 50th anniversary of Marin City, known as the Jungle, where Tupac had grown up. The child was caught in crossfire between a member of Tupac's entourage and a rival gang member. Interscope Records, which was managing Tupac at the time, opted to settle with the boy's family for nearly $500,000 out of court. Although Tupac was ordered to pay this sum due to the civil ruling, he faced no criminal charges. At first, I didn't quite understand how Tupac was involved until I found an article by Desert News. Here is what happened on the day of the shooting. The young boy lost his life in 1992 due to a bullet fired from a .38 caliber Colt handgun owned by Shakur. The incident reportedly arose from a confrontation between Shakur and rival rapper Demetrius Striplin. During the altercation, Shakur fell and lost his firearm, urgently calling out to his half-brother Maurice Harding to retrieve it. According to the plaintiffs, it was Harding who then discharged a bullet that tragically struck the child. Following the incident, Shakur and Harding attempted to escape in a vehicle but inadvertently drove in front of a sheriff's substation where bystanders identified Harding to the authorities. Investigators later discovered a gun registered to Shakur along with Harding's driver's license hidden in nearby bushes. Shakur was absent from the trial proceedings. On Monday, April 5, 1993, Tupac found himself in trouble when he was arrested for allegedly attempting to strike another rapper with a baseball bat during a concert at Michigan State University. The situation escalated after Tupac became enraged on stage and hurled a $670 microphone owned by the group Mad. Rapper Chauncey Wynn voiced his disapproval of Tupac's actions, which led to a near riot as the audience surged toward the performers. Security and police were called in to disperse over 3,000 fans gathered around the stage. During his testimony, Tupac explained that he had been holding the baseball bat as a prop for the performance. He insisted that he neither struck nor intended to strike anyone, claiming the bat merely frightened the other rapper. At the age of 23, Tupac pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor on Wednesday, September 14, 1994, in a deal that saw felony assault charges drop. He returned for sentencing on Wednesday, October 26, facing a potential 90 days in East Lansing jail. Ultimately, he served just 10 days and was also required to complete 35 hours of community service. Unfortunately, the situation continued to deteriorate. In a concert held in Pine Bluff, Arkansas in 1993, a woman named Jacqueline McNally was struck by a stray bullet, resulting in severe spinal cord damage that left her paralyzed from the chest down. Following Tupac's passing, she filed a lawsuit against the nightclub and Tupac's estate, alleging that he incited the crowd and fostered a riotous environment that led to the shooting, as argued by her attorney. The court awarded her $16.6 million in damages after Tupac's representatives failed to show up for the hearing. Richard Fishbein, the lawyer representing Tupac's mother and estate, stated to the Associated Press that Tupac had not been informed about the lawsuit or the ruling. The nightclub ultimately reached a settlement of $500,000, while the shooter faced prosecution and imprisonment. On October 31, 1993, Tupac was charged in connection with the shooting of two off-duty police officers in Atlanta. Eyewitnesses claim that Tupac and his crew returned fire after the officers, who were in plain clothes, shot at Tupac's vehicle. The charges were later dismissed when it was revealed that the officers who had been drinking were the ones who instigated the incident. Testimony from the prosecution's own witness indicated that the gun used by one officer to threaten Tupac had previously been confiscated during a drug raid and was unaccounted for in the police evidence locker, providing significant evidence to clear Tupac of wrongdoing. Additionally, Tupac spent time in jail due to a confrontation on the set of a music video. This altercation involved Tupac and directors Albert and Alan Hughes, who had previously dismissed him from the cast of Menace to Society 6 months prior due to his volatile behavior. Tupac shared his perspective with Vibe magazine, revealing, "The Hughes brothers were behind all my music videos." He recounted how after the success of Juice, they approached him, saying, "Can we use your name to secure this movie deal?" He enthusiastically agreed. When he teamed up with John Singleton, Tupac recalls Singleton expressing his desire to be the Scorsese to your De Niro, emphasizing that he wanted Tupac for leading roles. "Kick out Trip to Ikehead to see your success in life and then flip the curriculum." So John wanted to do things the right way. He became a leading figure in Black and brown written media. He enthusiastically agreed. Guess what happened next? Tupac then informed the Hughes brothers that he preferred a smaller part, but he didn't clarify that he meant a less significant role. This led to disagreements during rehearsals, with the Hughes brothers accusing him of changing since collaborating with Singleton. They felt like they were in competition with him, Tupac noted. Months later, after his dismissal, Tupac encountered the Hughes brothers at a video shoot, and tensions flared into an argument. "That's a fair fight, right? Two guys against me," he later remarked to Vibe. Eventually, Tupac faced charges for carrying a loaded concealed weapon, which could have resulted in a year in jail and a $3,000 fine. On February 10, 1994, he was convicted of misdemeanor assault and battery, receiving a sentence of 15 days in Los Angeles County Jail and an additional 15 days working on the California Department of Transportation road crew, a punishment he accepted with reluctance. He expressed his disdain for jail, describing the feeling of being suffocated. There were unverified rumors about him being assaulted by inmates during his time behind bars, but his friends have consistently denied these claims. Tupac Shakur found himself at the center of a highly publicized criminal case when he was accused of sexually assaulting a female fan. The woman claimed that Tupac, along with two associates, restrained her while a fourth man assaulted her in a hotel room. Tupac maintained that he was the victim of a conspiracy. The incident unfolded after Tupac began spending time with Jacques Agnet, a Haitian-born music promoter. On the evening of November 14, 1993, Agnet took Tupac to Nell's, an upscale nightclub in New York City, where they met Ayanna Jackson, a 19-year-old from Manhattan. Reports suggest that Ayanna engaged in oral sex with Tupac on a dance floor, and later that night, they continued their encounter in his hotel room. Just 4 days later, Ayanna returned to the Parker Meridien Hotel where Tupac was staying to retrieve some items she had left behind. The two ended up in the bedroom once more. During the trial, Ayanna testified that while she and Tupac were kissing, 3 men entered the room and they proceeded to strip her and sexually assault her. Following the incident, she reported the assault to the police, accusing the 4 men of gang rape. Ayanna identified Jock Agnet, a friend of his, Charles Fuller, and Tupac as the individuals present during the assault. Tupac, Agnet, and Fuller were subsequently arrested and charged with sexual assault, while Agnet's friend, who had left the room earlier, was not charged. A prosecutor remarked that Tupac was so taken with Ayanna that he chose to share her as a reward for his boys. All 3 individuals faced rape allegations but emerged with varying outcomes. Agnet accepted a plea deal for a misdemeanor, while Tupac and Fuller were found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree sexual abuse, which involved inappropriate touching of the victim without her consent. Both Tupac and Fuller received sentences of 2.5 years in prison. They were acquitted of weapons charges after police discovered 2 unlicensed firearms in their hotel suite, with Tupac's attorney, Michael Warren, successfully arguing that the guns did not belong to them. Additionally, they were cleared of sodomy charges, which could have led to a maximum sentence of 25 years. A jury dismissed the woman's allegation that Tupac had coerced her into group sex, but he was convicted of the lesser charge of sexual abuse, resulting in prison time. At the age of 22, Tupac Shakur, inmate number 961140, was transferred to Archer's Island, a county jail, and then to Downstate Correctional Facility for a medical evaluation from February 28 to March 8, 1995. Following that, he was transported to the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, located 320 miles north of Manhattan. Given that he was not convicted of rape, Tupac's legal team was shocked by the judge's decision to send him to Clinton, known as Little Siberia, a maximum security prison notorious for housing the state's most dangerous criminals. In a surprising legal twist, a judge decided to separate Jacques Agnat's case from those of Tupac and Charles Fuller. Tupac later grew suspicious, believing that Agnat was a government informant who had orchestrated his downfall. The ruling was announced just a day after Tupac was shot 5 times in the lobby of a recording studio in Times Square. At the time, he was recovering in Bellevue Hospital, but he was determined to be present for the verdict. He insisted on being released so he could confront the jury directly. Despite being in a wheelchair due to the shooting at Quad Studios the previous day, he left the hospital early because he felt that the court would think that the shooting was a setup, in other words, done on purpose, so he could skip out on being in court. Tupac checked himself out of the hospital the next day after being shot to prove that it was not an act. While he was healing in a New York hospital, his biological father, Billy Garland, came to visit him. Garland shared with writer Kevin Powell, "I had to be there. He's my son. I've never asked him for anything, not money or anything. I just wanted him to know I cared. He thought I was dead or that I didn't want to see him. How could I feel that way? He's my flesh and blood. Just look at us. He looks just like me." Strangers could tell I was his father. Despite his history of legal issues, this shooting marked the most notorious chapter in Tupac's life. The shooting at Quad Studios became the elevated feud between Tupac and Biggie. The conflict between Tupac and Biggie was far from a mere backstage squabble. It erupted into the public eye through their music and interviews. Both artists unleashed a barrage of diss tracks targeting one another. Tupac's fierce attacks in songs like "Hit 'Em Up" and "Against All Odds" directly implicated Biggie and his crew in his own assault, branding them as traitors. In retaliation, Biggie fired back with tracks such as "Who Shot Ya" and "Long Kiss Goodnight," intensifying the rivalry. This animosity wasn't limited to their songs. The two engaged in a heated exchange of insults during interviews and press events, with accusations flying in every direction. The media frenzy surrounding their feud only heightened the tension, further deepening the divide between Tupac and Biggie. Sadly, these two would never get to mend their friendship. Tupac spent 11 months in the tough environment of the Clinton Correctional Facility before Suge Knight stepped in to post his bond while they awaited an appeal for his conviction. During his time behind bars, Tupac tied the knot with his girlfriend Keisha Morris, an education student he had been dating for 6 months prior to his incarceration. Their first meeting took place in June 1994 at the Chippendales Club, now known as Capadella, New York. They enjoyed each other's company at Tupac's bachelor pad, a spacious home complete with a swimming pool, big screen TV, and pool table located in an upscale, secluded area of Atlanta, Georgia. For her birthday on November 10th, Keisha shared with Sister to Sister magazine that Tupac surprised her with a BMW 7235. He later gifted her matching Gucci watches in a stunning diamond set in platinum. On April 29, 1995, a female chaplain officiated their wedding in a ceremony held at the prison. However, the marriage was annulled shortly after Tupac's release. He later described it as a marriage of convenience that felt right during his time in prison, but once he regained his freedom, his hectic career and fast-paced lifestyle interfered with their relationship. Ultimately, he and Keisha parted ways amicably. Throughout his imprisonment, Tupac frequently expressed to his friends his desire to be released. He promised that if he got out, he would leave behind the thug lifestyle, aiming to embrace a fresh start. Suge Knight of Death Row Records sent Tupac a bulletproof vest emblazoned with Death Row and its logo. Following this, Suge and his lawyer David Kenner made a visit to Tupac at the New York State Prison. During their meeting, Tupac expressed his desire to join the Death Row family, saying, "I want to join the family, just get me out." Seizing on Tupac's urgency, Suge and Kenner presented him with a 4-page handwritten contract that bound him to produce 3 albums for Death Row. In exchange, they promised to secure Tupac's release by posting the $1.4 million bond necessary for his appeal process. Tupac agreed and also decided to appoint Kenner, who had long been associated with Death Row, as his legal representative. Thursday, October 12, 1995, Tupac walked out of Clinton Correctional Facility, as confirmed by the Records Department. Some believe that his imprisonment was the reason he signed the contract with Death Row. As the primary provider for his family, comprising cousins, a niece, his mother, and a half-sister, Tupac faced mounting legal fees and other financial burdens. Death Row not only secured his freedom, but also provided financial relief. Despite warnings from friends and associates about potentially losing his independence to Suge in Death Row, Tupac went ahead and signed. It's allegedly said that Tupac signed with Death Row on a piece of toilet paper and not a legalized contract till later on, once he got out of jail. It is said that this was a way for Suge to get back at Biggie and Diddy, since Tupac believed that Biggie and Diddy had something to do with the shooting at Quad Studios, allegedly. Some say that Tupac signed with Death Row due to Interscope leaving him high and dry to rot in prison and not help post bail. It is said that Interscope was just sick and tired of the legal mess that Tupac was constantly being involved in. Some also say that if Interscope would have just bailed him out, that the way things happened in the end would have not happened, that Tupac would still be alive if he never signed with Death Row Records. In a music video following his release, Tupac rapped, "Why they let me go, I don't know, but I'm out." Tupac emerged from prison as a liberated man, filled with gratitude for his newfound freedom. Awaiting him was a private jet that whisked him from New York to Los Angeles. That very night, he found himself in a studio in LA, laying down tracks for an album with Death Row Records. In just 3 days post-release, he had already recorded 7 songs, signaling the start of an incredible creative surge that would see him produce around 200 tracks before his tragic shooting just 11 months later. "There's nobody in the business strong enough to scare me," Tupac declared in a Vibe interview. "I'm with Death Row because they're not scared either." Tupac expressed his deep appreciation for Suge Knight, stating, "When I was in jail, Suge was the only one who came to see me. He would fly a private plane all the way to New York just to spend time with me. He arranged for his lawyer to investigate all my cases. Suge was there for me no matter what I needed. When I got out, he had a private plane ready, a limo, and 5 police officers for security. I told him I needed a house for my mom, and he made it happen. I made a promise to myself that I would create the biggest impact in my life. I'm determined to elevate my game to heights that no one has ever reached before. I have immense respect for Snoop and the incredible work he, along with Dogg Pound, Nate Dogg, and Dre, put into building Death Row Records into what it is today. My goal is to take it even further." Tupac's solo debut with Death Row, the double album All Eyes on Me, raked in an astonishing $14 million in its first week, making it the fastest-selling CD of 1996. With 27 tracks, including hits like Shorty Wanna Be a Thug, One Die Why They Call You Biatch, and Rather Be Ya Nigga, It went on to sell 7 million copies. Death Row stood as the leading rap label globally, producing more platinum albums than any other. Interestingly, it wasn't just urban youth who were drawn to Tupac's music, even white teenagers from suburban America were eager to embrace his sound. In fact, around 70% of rap music buyers are white, predominantly middle-class youths. Yet not everyone grasped the allure of Tupac's artistry. Richard Roper, a columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times, described Tupac as a street-walking clown fixated on guns, wealth, sex, and violence. He argued that Tupac's story isn't one of triumph over adversity through talent, but rather one of indulgence in that very lifestyle. As I write this, he noted, I'm listening to All Eyes on Me. If I hear the words motherfucker, bitch, or nigger one more time, I might just toss my stereo out the window. There's hardly any mention of love in the over 24 tracks, yet those other words appear more than 100 times each. It's a defining soundtrack of the 90s. Meet Tupac Shakur. While incarcerated, Tupac reached out to Kevin Powell at the state prison. As he chain-smoked cigarettes, he confided in the former Vibe magazine reporter, saying, "This is my last interview. If something happens to me, I want my story to be told in full. I want every detail out there." Tupac recounted how, upon his arrival in prison, he faced disdain from other inmates who dismissed him as just another gangster rapper. This label frustrated him. He saw himself as a comprehensive artist, one who was opening doors for others. He expressed that his music reflected the harsh realities of life, which often included violence. He felt the heavy burden of responsibility as many looked to him for guidance. However, he acknowledged a significant issue. His heavy use of marijuana and alcohol had left him in a fog. He referred to himself as a weed addict. But during his time in jail, he was compelled to get sober. And as he did, clarity returned to his thoughts. He shared with Kevin his thoughts on two recurring subjects: race and the violence within the Black community. The real tragedy is the ignorance among some brothers out there, Tupac shared with Kevin. That's why I'm not about this all white or all black divide. I'm focused on what's real versus what's fake, regardless of skin color. There are some treacherous individuals out there, the same ones who betrayed Malcolm X and Jesus Christ. Not every brother has your back. Just because someone is Black doesn't mean they're trustworthy, and just because someone is white doesn't mean they're bad. After his release from prison, Tupac distanced himself from the thug life mentality, an acronym for the hate you give, little infants fucks everybody. Yet his drive for his career and love for music remained fierce. He was determined to balance his pursuits in both film and music while also appealing his sexual abuse conviction. Tupac and Suge formed a close bond shortly after Tupac's release from prison. During their time together, Suge whisked Tupac away to Mexico and Hawaii between recording sessions. In exchange, Tupac infused Death Row with a vibrant star persona and charisma that set him apart from the other artists on the label. Tupac asserted that his work was a form of rehabilitation. He pointed to his role in the film Gridlock as evidence of his transformation. If nothing else, he gave youth and his friends a vision they would carry on by showing other kids that they could overcome life's obstacles and make a difference in their community. He remarked about his experience on set, "It'll show that I can arrive on time and still have an album that sells 5 million while I'm doing my thing. It proves my dedication. Plus, it demonstrates that I shouldn't be behind bars because in the short time I've been out, I've shown I can thrive in the real world. It's the money that brings me back to life, not prison." Tupac wanted to emphasize his strong work ethic and determination. However, as history would reveal, Tupac was not truly rehabilitated. He emerged from prison claiming to be a new man, yet he quickly fell back into the same gangster lifestyle, perhaps even more deeply entrenched. He became the artistic heart of Death Row, its most prominent star, and in doing so, helped elevate the label to unprecedented heights in the rap industry. In 1995, after the massive success of his album Me Against the World and his role alongside Mickey Rourke in Bullet, Tupac established a company called Euthanasia to oversee his film and music endeavors. Euthanasia, a play on the word euthanasia, was listed as his employer on the Clark County Coroner's report following his death. Even months after his tragic murder, the business was still operational. However, just 7 months later, the phone line had been disconnected and the office located at 8489 West 3rd Street, Suite 1038 in Beverly Hills was shuttered. A few months prior to his passing, Tupac became engaged to Kidada Jones, the daughter of renowned music producer Quincy Jones. Their relationship blossomed quickly, despite having known each other for only a short time. Interestingly, Tupac had previously voiced his disapproval of Quincy marrying Kidada's mother, Peggy Lipton, a white actress known for her role in Mod Squad. This history made Kidada initially hesitant to connect with Tupac when they first met at a nightclub. However, after a brief courtship, they decided to move into an upscale estate in Calabasas, which was leased by Death Row Records. Tupac transformed their entertainment room by adding numerous video games and slot machines, creating a fun space for friends and family who frequently visited. Tupac's views on women were intricate and often contradictory. In a 1995 MTV interview, he expressed that while his music criticized promiscuous women, it did not encompass all women. He shared with journalist Tony Patrick, "There ain't nothing like a black woman." His loyalty extended even to his metaphorical girlfriend, his beloved gun. When it came to children, Tupac's perspective was straightforward. In an Esquire interview, he explained his reluctance to become a parent. "Procreation is so much about ego," he remarked. "Everyone wants to have a junior, but I couldn't care less about having a child to tell, I got messed over by America and now you're gonna face the same fate. Until I feel like a first-class citizen in this world, I can't bring a child into it. My child deserves to be a first-class citizen, and I refuse to have white babies." He elaborated on the harsh realities he faced, stating, "There's no way around it unless I want to turn white and ignore the truth of what's happening in America. My fate is either jail or death, or I'd be so overwhelmed by the stress of avoiding those outcomes that I might just have a heart attack." The threats to life aren't solely from police violence. In the final year of his life, Tupac's acting career was on the rise. Vondy Curtis Hall, known for his role in the TV series Chicago Hope, directed Tupac in the film Gridlocked, which premiered across the country on January 29, 1997. This dark comedy, based on Hall's semi-autobiographical screenplay, explored themes of survival. Hall shared with Parade magazine that directing Tupac was not as challenging as many might have thought, despite his notorious reputation. "When we cast Tupac, he had just been released from jail, and there was a lot of hesitation about working with him. However, he never caused any issues," Hall emphasized, noting that Tupac consistently arrived on set prepared and punctual. "We never felt that his luck was running out." At the 1997 Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah, just 4 months after Tupac's tragic death, actor Tim Roth reflected on his experience working alongside the rapper in Gridlocked. "It was fantastic working with him," Roth told a reporter from the Park Record. "Only knew him from the set, so I wasn't familiar with his music or previous films, and he actually preferred it that way. When we first met, he asked me, 'Please don't watch any films if you haven't. Don't listen to the music. Don't see the videos. People will share their opinions, and while some may be true, others won't be. Just come in with an open mind.'" Roth's analysis was quite perceptive. The internal struggle appeared to arise from Tupac's experiences during his time in prison, juxtaposed with the allure and pressures of life outside. While incarcerated, he claimed to have transformed, expressing to reporters that he was a new man. However, upon his release, he slipped back into his former habits, adopting a tough persona and flashing gang signs. In many respects, he seemed more hardened than ever. During his prison stint, Tupac expressed a desire to collaborate with his friend Mike Tyson to establish a youth organization called Us First, aimed at steering kids away from trouble. This reformed Tupac advocated for anti-violence, yet he frequently failed to embody those principles. Tupac Shakur was present at the boxing match between Bruce Seldon and Mike Tyson, accompanied by Marion Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records, at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada. After the event, Trevon Tree Lane, an associate of Knight and a member of the MOB Pirates gang from Compton, California, noticed Orlando Anderson, a member of the rival Southside Compton Crips, in the lobby of the MGM Grand. Night. Earlier that July, Anderson and his crew had attempted to rob Lane at a Foot Locker in Lakewood, California. Lane informed Shakur about Anderson's presence, prompting Shakur to confront him. He asked Anderson if he was affiliated with the South and then struck him, sending him to the ground. Shakur and Knight's group joined in the assault, which was recorded by the hotel's surveillance cameras before security intervened. On the night of September 7, 1996, at 11:15 p.m., Tupac Shakur, a 25-year-old American rapper, became the victim of a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas, Nevada. The incident took place while Shakur's vehicle was halted at a red light at the intersection of East Flamingo Road and Koval Lane. Marion Suge Knight, the driver, was also hit by a bullet during the attack. Tragically, Shakur succumbed to his injuries 6 days later on September 13, 1996. He was hit by 4 bullets from a .40 caliber Glock. 2 struck his chest, 1 hit his arm, and another impacted his thigh. Kevin Powell, a former senior writer for Vibe magazine, began his journey with Tupac during the early days of the rapper's career, developing a deep connection with him. Powell characterized their relationship as very intense. I was his biographer for a time, he recalled. Pac often told me he wanted me to be his Alex Haley, the author of Malcolm X's biography. Sometimes I felt like a big brother to him, as if we were family. I miss him in a strange way. No one wants to witness the loss of someone. I believe it was a combination of internal and external struggles that ultimately led to his tragic end. Internally, he seemed unable to navigate through his challenges. He was heartbroken, and he felt like he suffered amongst disasters, which is why he found peace so nourishing. Powell's first interview with Tupac took place in 1993. Even back then, he felt like he was misunderstood, Powell noted. I had been following his journey since 1990 when he was part of Digital Underground. His work was a form of social commentary that resonated with me. He stood out distinctly in my mind. I started jotting down notes long before I received the green light from Vibe to write a feature. I thought, this is a kid who embodies the essence of the 90s. He truly represented hip-hop like no one else. He was emblematic of the era, much like James Dean was in the 1950s. He frequently spoke about death. In our first piece together for Vibe, he brought up his own mortality and expressed a desire for people not to label him as someone who hates white people. Right from the start, he was addressing profound topics. Powell expressed uncertainty about what Tupac's life might have looked like had he survived. Tupac's life serves as a powerful lesson. You can't rush through life living recklessly without carefully considering your choices. I recall my last interview with him wishing he had remained incarcerated, as it would have shielded him from those who sought to harm him, both physically and spiritually. During a conversation with Sway, the San Francisco DJ, Tupac shared his vision for the future. In 5 years, I'll have my own production company, which is already in the works. I'm working on my own films, he revealed. I've got a restaurant with Suge and Snoop, and I want to grow that. I'm planning to release charity calendars and start a youth league in California to compete against East Coast and Southern teams. Imagine a Pop Warner League funded by rappers, with them as head coaches, where kids can earn a diamond-studded trophy for staying drug-free and focused on their education. And that's the only requirement to join the team. We'll have a blast, enjoy pizza, and invite the best girls, culminating in concerts at the end of the year. That's my way of giving back. I envision a role at Death Row, Tupac added. As an A&R person and an artist releasing albums like Paul McCartney every 5 years, not that I compare myself to him, but no rapper has done that, which is why I use him as a reference. I want to take my time with it, ensuring my music carries depth and meaning. Just 4 months after his tragic death, Tupac Shakur was honored as the favorite rap hip-hop artist at the American Music Awards. Even after his passing, Tupac maintained an incredibly dedicated fan base. Enthusiasts queued for hours at record stores nationwide, including Las Vegas, eagerly anticipating the midnight release of his final album on November 5, 1996. Titled Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, this album was launched posthumously under his rap persona, Machiavelli. The day prior, boxing champion Mike Tyson, along with a group of associates, attempted to purchase the CD early at the Tower Records store on West Sahara Avenue in Las Vegas, just a short distance from Tyson's mansion. The clerk recounted that Tyson was skeptical when informed the album wasn't available yet. "We told him, come back tomorrow," he said. True to his word, Tyson returned the following day and successfully bought the CD. Tupac's 4th posthumous release, Until the End of Time, catapulted him back to the top of the Billboard 200 albums chart 4.5 years after his death. This double album, featuring previously unreleased tracks from Tupac's archives, sold over 426,000 copies, debuting at number 1 as reported by SoundScan on April 4, 2001. This marked Tupac's 4th number 1 album, a milestone he had previously reached with Me Against the World in 1995 and All Eyes on Me in 1996 while he was still alive. Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, also achieved the number 1 spot, His other posthumous albums, Are You Still Down, Remember Me in 1997, and Still I Rise with the Outlaws in 1999, reached number 2 and number 7 on the Billboard chart, respectively. However, The Rose That Grew from Concrete, a spoken word album featuring Tupac's poetry and readings by other rappers, did not manage to break into the top 50 upon its release in 2000. Here it is, the saga of Tupac Shakur, from his rise to his tragic end. With the recent arrest in connection to his murder, I plan to delve deeper into Tupac's final days. In 2023, Keith D, the last known individual linked to Tupac's demise, was taken into custody. There's so much more to explore in Tupac's narrative, but given the complexity of the story, I'll need to divide it into several videos. Until next time, stay safe and look after yourselves.